Okay, so what if I told you that almost everything we've been taught about managing our money is, well, wrong? We're going to explore a really powerful shift in thinking today, moving from the mindset of a consumer with a budget to the mindset of a company with a balance sheet. And honestly, this one change could completely alter your financial future.
This single idea is pretty much the key to everything. It's the reason why huge corporations can grow into absolute giants, while so many of us, even people who are doing everything right, feel like we're just spinning our wheels. It's about realizing we've been taught to play a completely different and, frankly, a much less effective financial game.
So let's just dive right in and break down these two sets of rules that govern money, because I'm willing to bet you have only been taught how to play by one of them.
Right, so on one side, you've got the consumer game. This is what we all know, right? Manage your budget, make sure your income is higher than your expenses. It's defensive. On the other side, you have the company game, structure capital. This is all about focusing on assets and liabilities to actively engineer growth. You see the difference? One is about survival, the other is about expansion.
To really see this in action, let's look at a pretty stunning real-world example of a company that completely flipped its own script, shifting from that consumer game to the company game.
So before 2020, MicroStrategy, which is run by a guy named Michael Saylor, was a solid business, but it was stuck. Their revenues were flat, their stock wasn't really going anywhere. Sound familiar? It's kind of like that feeling in your own finances where you're working hard, you're paying the bills, but you're just not getting ahead. You're just treading water.
So, Saylor did something that most people would think is crazy. Instead of trying to just sell more software, which is like us trying to get a raise or a side hustle, he changed the entire financial engine of the company. He took the focus off the income statement, the P&L, and put it squarely on the company's balance sheet. And the results? Well, they're just staggering. Since making that shift, MicroStrategy stock is up over 880%. I mean, it has absolutely demolished the performance of the Magnificent Seven, the S&P 500, pretty much everything else.
By switching up its focus, by learning to play the company game, the company's value exploded from about $3.6 billion to nearly $98 billion. And get this, that wasn't from selling more software. It was from restructuring their capital.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. How did they do it? Well, you can see here, they took on about $14 billion in debt. But look at that, next to their $98 billion enterprise value and their $71 billion in assets. They used debt, but they used it strategically, making sure it was just a fraction of their total assets. This is straight out of the corporate playbook.
This whole story just perfectly highlights the massive difference between the consumer and the company mindset. So let's break that down a little bit more.
So while you're focused on your income statement, working harder, finding a side hustle, cutting back on lattes just to save a few extra bucks, companies are laser focused on their balance sheet. They're asking, how can we use our existing assets to grow our wealth and buy more assets? It's a totally different question. And that brings us to the big one, debt. You and I, we've been taught to see debt as this evil thing, right? An emergency, something to get rid of as fast as humanly possible. But companies, they see debt completely differently. For them, it's not good or bad. It's a powerful tool. It's a lever for financial engineering that they use to buy assets that grow in value.
And here's the brutal truth. That consumer mindset is a losing game in today's world. Why? Because you're fighting this invisible force. The money you save is constantly losing value because of currency debasement, what we all feel is inflation. And that force is stronger than your ability to save. You just can't skip enough coffees to win that fight.
Okay, so that brings us to the secret mechanic, the thing that makes this whole corporate strategy so incredibly powerful. It's a concept that actually lets you turn that destructive force of inflation into your biggest advantage. It's called balance sheet asymmetry. Now, that sounds super technical, right? But the idea is actually incredibly simple. It just means that a big force like inflation doesn't affect all the parts of your finances in the same way. In fact, it has the complete opposite effect on different sides of your personal balance sheet. And here it is. This is the aha moment. We all know the bad part of inflation, right? Our savings, our salary, it just buys less and less over time. It destroys our cash. But here's the secret. It also destroys your long-term fixed-rate debt. Think about it. That $1,000 mortgage payment you have feels a lot smaller in 20 years when $1,000 isn't worth as much. Inflation is literally eating away at your debt for you. Okay, so this is the big question. How do we take this powerful idea from a giant corporation and actually apply it to our own personal balance sheet? Let's walk through the steps. The very first principle you have to get your head around is this: idle balance sheets decay. any asset you have that isn't actively working for you, and the big one for most people is the equity just sitting in their home. It's basically a melting ice cube. It's losing value to currency debasement every single day.
So the game plan is really a three-step process to put that idle, lazy capital to work. First, you got to identify it. Where is it? Then you unlock it using financial tools. And finally, you apply that capital to an asset that can generate its own cash flow and hopefully grow in value. You're putting your balance sheet to work.
Let's look at a really simple example of this. Let's say you unlock $100,000 of equity from your home at an 8% interest rate. Then you invest that capital into an asset, and of course, this requires a ton of careful research that pays you a 9.5% yield. Right away, you're making a 1.5% profit on borrowed money. That's called positive carry, and that's before you even think about the potential for the asset itself to go up in value.
So it really all comes back to this one fundamental mental shift. In the financial system we live in, the tool of debt itself isn't the main risk. The real risk is not knowing how to use it properly. You know, like any powerful tool, it demands respect, it demands knowledge. But avoiding it completely means you're leaving one of the most effective wealth-building strategies on the table.
So the final thought I want to leave you with is this. Take a hard look at your own finances. Is your personal balance sheet actually structured to build your wealth using these same principles? Or are your assets just sitting there on the sidelines, slowly decaying in a game that you just can't win by saving more? The choice of which game to play, well, that's up to you.